A 12-year-old girl saved a plane from crashing. What she did left everyone in deep shock. The morning in France was beautiful as always, painted with soft lavender skies and the gentle hum of a waking city. It was a final day of the school field trip. A week that had felt like magic, stitched together with baguettes, museums, Eiffel Tower selfies, and the kind of laughter only middle school friendships could create. 12-year-old Ava William stood quietly near the window of the hotel lobby, her sketchbook tucked under one arm. She barely spoke during the morning rush. While the other students scrambled to stuff souvenirs and wrinkled clothes into overstuffed suitcases, Ava simply zipped up her neat little bag, her eyes always drifting skyward. She was excited, but not for the same reasons as her classmates. Most couldn't wait to show off their trinkets or tell exaggerated stories back home in Los Angeles. Ava? She just wanted to be at the airport. Airports were her wonderlands. They held the promise of takeoffs, landings, engines roaring like thunder, the dream of flight made real. She didn't just love airplanes, she understood them. While others marveled at the view from their windows, Ava could tell you the difference between a turbofan and a turbojet engine, and why winglets mattered at high altitudes. Her fascination was quiet, often unnoticed, except by a few teachers who had caught glimpses of her sketching intricate jet engine parts during lunch breaks. As the students boarded the bus bound for Charles de Gaulle Airport, Ava clutched her sketchbook tightly. She had drawn something the night before, a detailed cross-section of a Boeing 777's G90 engine, annotated in pencil. She wasn't sure what made her draw it. Just a hunch maybe, but it felt important, like something she had to understand before the flight home. Their chaperones, Mr. Jacobs and Ms. Rivera, took a final head count and waved goodbye to the friendly hotel concierge. The students buzzed with energy, joking, comparing last-minute purchases, and trying to sneak in one last TikTok post. But Ava, seated by the bus window, barely noticed the chatter. Her focus was on the sky again, watching the contrails of early morning flights carving delicate streaks across the clouds. At the airport, the excitement only grew. The group navigated through check-in, security, and duty-free shops. Ava hung back, walking slowly, soaking in every engine hum and boarding announcement. When they reached their gate, Flight 462 to LAX, she leaned against the glass and stared at the aircraft outside. It was massive, sleek, powerful, a Boeing 777. Just like in her sketch. As the minutes ticked by, something stirred inside her, not fear. She loved flying too much for that. It was something else. A pressure, a thought, half-formed. She glanced at her notebook and traced the sketch with her fingertip. Something about the configuration looked off. But then Ms. Rivera called out, "All right, kids, time to board." And the moment passed like a breeze. There's a strange kind of peace that comes with flying at 36,000 feet. The engines hum like white noise. Overhead air vents whisper cool breaths, and the cabin lights glow softly. Passengers on Flight 294 from New York to Lisbon had settled into the rhythm of a long-haul journey. Some were curled under scratchy blue airline blankets, heads bobbing in sleep. Others tapped lazily at seatback screens or sipped from tiny plastic cups. It was the calm of being miles above the world, floating in the in-between. Hours into the flight, everything felt normal. The seatbelt sign had long since turned off. The crew had completed drink service. Passengers murmured, stretched, or dozed. No one suspected a thing. Behind the sealed cockpit door, something terrible had begun. Captain Everett, a seasoned pilot with nearly 25 years of experience, sat motionless. His headset had slipped halfway off. His mouth slack. His eyes closed. First Officer Ramirez turned toward him. "Captain?" he asked, frowning. No response. He leaned closer. "Everett?" He reached out, gently shaking the older man's arm. Nothing. Panic gripped his chest. Ramirez quickly activated autopilot with trained fingers, then grabbed the cabin intercom. "We need medical assistance in the cockpit," he announced, trying to keep his voice steady. The call echoed through the cabin. Most passengers barely noticed, assuming someone was airsick. But in row 17, a paramedic named Jordan Connor sat up straighter. He looked at his wife, nodded once, and stood. A few rows behind him, retired ER nurse Elaine Foster had already unbuckled her seatbelt. They met eyes and moved forward together, led by a pale flight attendant who unlocked the cockpit door. Inside, the air felt oddly thin. Captain Everett was clearly unconscious. His breathing was shallow, barely perceptible. Jordan dropped to his knees, checking for a pulse. Elaine grabbed the emergency oxygen mask from above and strapped it to the captain's face. "Help me move him," Jordan said urgently. "We need compressions." As they worked, Ramirez rubbed his temples. The cockpit lights blurred. His limbs felt like lead. He reached for the oxygen mask, missed it. Then, suddenly, he collapsed. His head hit the console with a sickening thud. Jordan and Elaine froze. "Oh God," Elaine whispered. "Not him too." Nothing worked. Oxygen. CPR. Adrenaline. The paramedic scanned the cockpit. A warning light glowed red. "Cockpit oxygen system failure," he read aloud. Elaine's eyes widened. That's why. They didn't even know. Jordan stood, sweat pouring down his face. "We need airflow. Open the door. Circulate oxygen. Maybe help the cabin." But they are not waking up. The intercom crackled again. Flight attendant Emily Reyes, her voice trembling, made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, both of our pilots are currently unresponsive. We have medical professionals assisting, and we are in contact with ground control. Please remain calm. We'll update you shortly." But panic had already begun. A man stood up, shouting questions. A woman clutched her rosary and prayed. Children cried. A teenage boy tried to send a message. A businessman's hands trembled over his laptop keyboard. "No one's flying the plane," someone said in disbelief. Emily's knuckles whitened around the intercom. "If anyone on board has flight experience, military, commercial, private, please make yourself known immediately." Silence. Then a voice, small, hesitant. I play flight simulators." Heads turned. A 12-year-old girl stood up in row 9, skinny, in braids and a hoodie. It was Ava. Emily blinked. "Sweetheart, you mean games?" Ava nodded. "Flight simulators. Real ones. My uncle's in aviation. He taught me everything. I've logged hundreds of hours. I'm not a real pilot, but I think I can help." There was laughter, nervous, unsure. But Ava didn't flinch. Jordan called from the cockpit. "Let her through. Any help is help right now." Emily bent down to Ava's level. "Do you really understand what's in there?" "I don't know," Ava said honestly, "but I want to try." Moments later, Ava stepped into the cockpit. The sight of the unconscious pilots didn't shake her. She slid into the co-pilot's chair and took a deep breath. Her small hands hovered over the controls. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's figure this out." Jordan handed her the headset and pushed the MIC button. Ava pressed it. "Hello, this is Ava. I'm 12. I'm not a real pilot, but I know simulators. I need help flying this plane." There was a pause. Then a calm voice replied. "Ava, this is air traffic control. You're doing great. We're going to help you every step of the way. You're very brave." Ava's fingers moved over the panel. "We're on autopilot. Heading 340. Altitude 36,000. "That's correct, Ava. You're doing great." In the cabin, passengers listened. A child was flying the plane. "She's just a kid," someone whispered. "She might be our only chance," came the reply. Back in the cockpit, Ava stayed focused. "What's our fuel situation?" "Enough to reach the Azores. We're rerouting you there. It's the nearest runway." "Okay," she said, nodding. "Tell me what to do when it's time to descend." For the next hour, Ava held the controls, adjusting knobs, following instructions, keeping the nose level. "You still with me, Ava?" the voice asked. "Still here," she replied, jaw tight. "Just concentrating." Jordan rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're doing something amazing." Ava didn't answer. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. Behind her, the pilots remained unconscious. "No change. I'm ready to descend," Ava said. "Tell me when." "Start now," the controller replied. "Throttle back gently. Lower to 25,000. Ava exhaled and began the descent. The aircraft responded like it had been waiting for her. The engine softened. The nose dipped. In the cabin, passengers gripped their seats. One man cried, not from fear, but from awe. "Flaps!" Ava asked. "Not yet. Focus on your glide path." She followed every command. Landing gear down. She reached the switch. Click. The runway lights blinked through the windshield. Final descent, Ava. Pull back slightly. The wheels touched down, hard, but clean. Gasps filled the cabin. The plane bounced once, then rolled smoothly down the runway. Ava cut the throttle. "You did it," the voice in her ear said, full of emotion. "Ava, you landed the plane." Silence. Then cheers. Loud, unstoppable, grateful. 24 hours later, Ava William received a private invitation to meet the President of the United States. But nothing surprised the world more than what was discovered after the landing, something she had drawn in her notebook the night before. a failure diagram eerily similar to the real oxygen malfunction. Somehow, her instinct, her quiet love for aviation, had foreshadowed what no one else had seen coming. And that was the moment the world realized. This wasn't just a girl who loved planes. This was the girl who had saved 211 lives.